This is the Game Changers Experience. Deep dive conversations with leading business disruptors, Olympic athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and influencers from around the world. This show will teach you insights about the winning principles in mindset, productivity, marketing, branding, entrepreneurship, business strategy, and more. Hosted by Productivity Authority, business strategist, former elite athlete, author, and public speaker, Adam Strong.
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everybody. And welcome to Business Accelerator at 10 minutes of me pouring into your glass, get the latest tips, tactics for business strategy, marketing, branding, you name it, we do it. If you're listening to us live, use the hashtag live, use the hashtag replay. And if you're listening to us on the podcast, we will put all of the links below so you can do that, so you can catch up with all the show notes, etc. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about the importance of building a list. All right, now, but before we get started, if you listen to me live, we're streaming through our YouTube channel and on LinkedIn Live. If you guys are listening into the podcast, make sure that you follow me here on LinkedIn and you'll follow me here on YouTube. Click on the bell notifications every time we go live, or every time I go live, you get to hear what I've got to say so you don't miss out on those big opportunities. We're also streaming through our amazing Facebook group, so welcome to our Facebook tribal community as well. Anyway, listen, I wanted to jump into this because I think this is like really super important. So we're talking a little bit about the importance of building a list, okay? So now, interestingly enough, if you've got a website, okay, if you're on social media, anything to do with where people can discover more about you, right? So they discover you through organic, whether you wrote an article. Think of where people actually discover you. So it could be through your LinkedIn profile, it could be through your personal website, for example. Think of all the different places of where people are discovering you. And then when people come to your social media channels or your websites more specifically, how are you capturing those details? So one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs make is they make it super difficult for their prospects to stay in touch with them, right? And the big challenge is that when people come across you for the first time, whatever that might looks like, all right, they're in the awareness stage of discovering who you are and what you stand for. And if they feel like there's an alignment of if they believe that you can help them effectively with their pain or their problem or whatever it might be, okay? So what's really important, and I feel like this is like really the amount of conversations that I've had with people, capturing people's details, so crucially important, because if you don't capture the details, what people are going to do, they're just going to disappear. And remember, it takes 10 times as much effort, okay, to convert new clients or new prospects into paying clients compared to existing clients or customers, all right? We just kind of like bear that in mind, okay? So one of the things that I need to really think about is not only, you know, especially if we're in the digital age now where, you know, where we're kind of working and connecting with people, not just on the online space, but also in the real world as well. And so I feel like, you know, we have this kind of like great opportunity to build a group or build a community, or for me, as I like to call it, build a tribe of people like yourself, right? So the ways that you can do that is effectively, if you have something on your website or if you have a link on your social media, for example, and you're asking them to, say you're giving something away, right? And say, for example, and you would have heard this, some people use lead magnets, for example, and a lead magnet is effectively like a bit like a digital product. It can be a digital product or it can be anything you want it to be. So if you're in the e-commerce space and you wanted to offer a free trial, or you're giving away free products or whatever it is, and they pay for the postage type of thing. If you are in, say, I don't know, say you are a tree surgeon, as an example, okay, or you're a tree consultant, okay. Maybe you would give a checklist, for example, of the 10 key mistakes that happens during when you buy a house, for example. Okay, it could be an ebook, it could be a quiz, it could be so something that's going to give them a value, something that's going to give them a quick win, because quick wins and quick results are really crucially important for a lot of people. So if you can give people that quick win, okay, then again, trust is then accelerated over time, if that makes sense. All right. So on my LinkedIn profile, for example, and my website, so I use my LinkedIn profile as an opportunity, is I'm asking people to either take a call to action, or in the featured in section, for example, we'll have like 3 main things in the featured in section. And what I do in my headline is I direct them towards the featured in section. Okay. So there'll be the scorecard, there'll be the podcast, and there'll be the quiz. Okay. So those are kind of like my gifts, if you like. Those are my gifts to you as a way to give something away for free, for example. But it's also a great way to nurture your tribe. It's a great way to build a community. So we've got about 1,600 on our list. So it's not like the hugest list in the world. But the great thing about it is that now email marketing, what I tend to do is I tend to want to really connect with my people on my list. And I've not met most of those people on my list, okay? However, I stay in communication with them on a consistent basis. I might give them some tips and some tactics. I might share a story, okay? I might send them an offer, okay? So I may monetize that. So there are different ways in which you can do that. But I feel like what's really super important is just to consistently nurture the relationship over time, okay? Because people aren't ready. Some people won't be ready to buy you immediately, okay? You've got to learn to build trust over time. And so the importance of building that list is going to help build trust over time. It's like little tiny micro steps, really. And it's a bit like kind of like touch points as well. So if you can imagine, in this day and age, it's much more harder to convince someone to do business with you, right? Because, there's so much more information out there and you're bombarded with so much advertising and marketing. It's a bit like anything. If I was, say, selling iPhones, for example, if I was Apple, okay, normally you'd have to, you go on a big advertising campaign, and really, generally, human psychology says is that the average person needs to see that item at least between 10 and 12 times before you've even captured their attention. So it's much more difficult to get people's attention spans these days, and human beings have such a small attention span these days. The first impression when people come across your profile or your website is normally between 5 and 7 seconds. And then that's it. If you haven't created the right impression, guess what? You're done. It's finished, right? They're going elsewhere. So it's really important to make sure that you're building a list. Now, what I was going to say to you, on your website, for example, if you have a website, I always use the analogy of, making sure that you've got a number of call to actions, especially on the homepage. I say to people, make sure you've got at least 4 to 5 call to actions. And that could be you're offering the same value, maybe a sign up to a newsletter, download of a free guide, maybe a link to the podcast or whatever it is. You're capturing people's details. And over a period of time, you're sending them offers, you're sending them stories, you're offering them tips and tactics, you're continuing to build a online conversation with them, even though you're not physically speaking to them. It's super, super important. And the other thing that I was going to say to you as well, which I feel like is really important as well, is the subject headline. Okay, think how many emails people get on a daily basis. All right, the headline is going to be crucial to capture and create this curiosity. And I would find headlines which can be controversial, which are a little bit more kind of like curious and a bit more kind of like maybe goes against the grain a little bit. Those are the types of headlines that you need to do, rather than kind of be a little bit kind of boring and be the same as everybody else. Think about how you can be a little bit different in your industry or niche. So I hope this kind of gives you some ideas about how you can, the importance of building a list, super important, okay? And there are some different email marketing platforms out there. You've got ActiveCampaign, which is what we use. You've got Aweber, you've got MailChimp, you've got so many different ones. And then, making sure that over time you're nurturing that relationship. Yeah. And it's a bit like kind of if you're a parent, over a period of time, you're nurturing that your child is becoming more bonded to you, and things like that. So it's a little bit like that, really, in a nutshell. So I wanted to kind of like share some tips on the importance of building a list. If you're not building a list, you're doing yourselves injustice, and you're making it even harder work for yourself in building your business as well. Anyway, listen, enough from me. I'm going to put the show notes below if you're listening to us on the podcast, by the way. If you're listening to me live, use the hashtag live, use the hashtag replay. And if you have listened to the replay, do give me a PLC, post, like, or comment on the comment section below. That'd be awesome. And if you have enjoyed today's, we'll be back here tomorrow for our 10-minute business accelerator. And if you're listening to this, see you soon. Have a fantastic day, week, month, and we'll see you soon. Cheers now. Bye-bye.